What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the REVIVECAST. Can you believe it? 2 weeks in a row. All right, so I'm on a roll now. I just came off of a phenomenal weekend doing our first ever women's only seminar. It was a blast. It was well received. During this seminar, I decided to kind of deliver my message of health different than I had in previous seminars that I've done. I didn't obviously really know how it was going to go until you actually get in the room and start doing it. And also we see the reaction and the interaction between myself and the attendees. And it was beyond what I expected. The women were able to be more open, more vulnerable because they felt more comfortable with each other in there. Once one person started sharing their stories, others did, which was very powerful. And connected a lot of dots for a lot of the attendees and like going through similar situations. So it was a great weekend. We are definitely going to be doing this again. I mean, I will do ones obviously with both males and females, but it was a great overall weekend. Doing these just makes me feel blessed and humbled that people obviously want to come learn from me and be educated and just to better themselves in any way, shape, or form. And if I can help them and 1%, 5%, that's, all I'm after. Like, I want to create impact within this industry. I want to change the way things are done, take things into account like longevity, and get away from solely just focusing on the cosmetic appearance and these before and after pictures, there's nothing wrong with those, but the approaches a lot of times are just unsustainable, right? And it puts, in my opinion, this undue pressure on a lot of people when they kind of go into this journey of health, and it skews what health truly should be about. Like, health doesn't have a look, right? And that's what people believe. You can have abs, you can have great glutes. That doesn't mean you're going to be healthy, especially for the bigger picture and long term, right? We want quality of life. We want longevity. And obviously you can look good in the process, but we want to be realistic with the approach with that and create something that's sustainable long-term for everybody. But I just want to thank everybody who attended for the support, and we will definitely be doing some more of these down the road. So on to today's topic. So after the seminar, this kind of things was set in the back of my head of what I'm going to discuss this week. And I've talked obviously about stress before, but I want to kind of put it in a different way that I bring this across. Give some analogy so people can kind of visualize what I'm talking about and understand it as simplified as possible, right? Because as an educator, my job is to lay this stuff out as simplistically as possible, not make anything overly confusing, so you can get a lot of takeaways to start applying to yourself, right out of the gate. All right. So what I want to talk about today is how to balance your stress book. So with that, obviously, I'm kind of going with the analogy of balancing like your checkbook or your accounts, so to speak, when it comes to money. Okay, so when we're looking at this, first let's talk about stress. Like, stress is not like one thing. It's all stressors. It's what we call allostatic load. All right, so that's all your stressors combined create your allostatic load. So you're talking about stressors from your physical, your environmental, so environmental being what you're surrounded with. It can be metabolic, obviously, nutrition. So it's not just one that we're looking at. It's encompassing all those creates allostatic load. Now, how great that allostatic load will dictate your ability to basically recover and create homeostasis, right? Because what you're trying to achieve is allostasis, which is just simply homeostasis with great change, creating homeostasis within great change. So with that being said, we have to look at all stressors, right? And not think of them all as just one thing, which a lot of people do. And we can kind of break this down into, obviously we have our parasympathetic side of things. We have our sympathetic side of things. So parasympathetic is rest, digest, recover, repair, sexual function, performance. And then you look at the sympathetic side of things when you're going to have things like increased focus, increased strength, increased metabolic rate. So lots of positives. So stress in and of itself is a good thing within context, right? It's not good, bad. It depends on how much you have and if you're able to balance that out and return to what we call allostasis. All right. So kind of think of it this way. So when we're thinking about our money, right? You basically don't want to invest all your money in one space and not put any in your checking account, right? That's going to create an imbalance. You're not going to be able to pay your bills or do X, Y, and Z, enjoy your life because all the money is going into investments. The other side, we can't put all of our money into the checking account and nothing ever in investments because we can't have longevity with that, right? So we have to create balance within our stress book. And so doing that with our parasympathetic and our sympathetic system, we need balance between the two. You need to spend time in both areas. Like we're always talking about recovery, which, is something we need to kind of focus on, and more often than not, most people need to focus on that more because in today's society, it's always go, 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 right? It's hard to turn things off. But you need to also spend time in that sympathetic state in the right context and to get benefit from that, right? Because we don't want to be like parasympathetic, resting all the time, never doing any activity, because then if you don't do that, then you're going to have the negative effects of obviously supporting lean muscle tissue, supporting metabolism, focus. There's a bunch of positive benefits. So we need to spend time in both areas to thrive. So you want to invest your money, and you also need to put money in your checking account. Like we need to have that balance within the two things, right? And the problem is people are not spending time, kind of like almost equal times in both. So I kind of think you have $100, and then you're putting $90 in the sympathetic system, and you only got 10 left to put into the parasympathetic. If you're training, if you're in an emergency, that's great. You need all those 90 coins there for that acute period of time. When we get out of that state, we need to shift, go back to 50 coins, $50 in the parasympathetic, and then 50 in our sympathetic. Like we're nice and balanced. Like we have some on both sides, right? So people are thinking that they can spend all this time training, working 70 hours a week, staying up, all hours of the night, getting 3 hours of sleep, not eating enough food. They think they can spend time doing that and go, 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 go. But when you're spending more time over there, you're taking away from the other side. So now recovery is going to go down. Digestion is going to go down. You can't focus anymore. You have like brain fog. So you start down-regulating other functions on the other side while you're staying in that sympathetic side way too long. Okay, so people that do that, they basically have such a high amount of allostatic load that they hit that tipping point and they can no longer achieve allostasis and create that balance within the system. All right. It's like you can't train and you can't sleep at the same time, but people think they can do that. That's kind of what my thought process is. If you break it down and think about that, like, no, I really can't train and sleep at the same time. Well, you can't spend a lot of time in the rest and recovery state, and you can't spend the same amount of time in the training state. Like it's impossible to do, right? And it's adaptations to stress without healthy coping mechanisms that will lead to basically a train wreck within the system, right? You can't be someone that you can't basically create like this. You can't be someone creating a tech company, become a pro athlete, solve world hunger all at the same time. But in today's society, that's what people are trying to achieve. And people can do certain things like pushing the envelope on one side or spending all their money on that sympathetic side until at some point it breaks and your body's pretty much had enough. And then people because some people have dealt with that for a few years. They're like, well, why was I able to do this for X amount of time and nothing happened? And now I'm unhealthy and I have all these symptoms, but I never had them before. Well, it's because you've basically created too much allostatic load for too long, and your body has put up with your shit for so long that it's done. And now stuff goes bad. And this is where we get into all these hormonal imbalances and cortisol imbalances and digestive issues that we're seeing now in today's society, right? And we have to get out of this mindset of thinking you can go hardcore 24/7, 365 days a year. You have to balance the system out. So kind of think about it this way, right? So if you have like gut dysfunction, like SIBO or something like that, leaky gut, IBS, you need to put more money into that parasympathetic side so you can upregulate digestion as much as possible, upregulate the recovery capacity of the body, right? We need to be investing most of our money on that one side of the coin or one side of the equation, right? So we can correct that, get that system back into a better place. Once you have achieved that, then we can start putting some money back into the other side gradually. So now we can maybe train a little bit more, right? We can work out a little bit harder. And it's a gradual process. It's not going from black and white from one side to the other, but you have to kind of focus on one thing at a time. You can't do both at the same time. And people are trying to achieve or correct whatever health issue they're dealing with, adrenal dysfunction, whatever, while they're still training and pushing the envelope in the gym and doing everything else. You can't do that. If you truly want to improve your health and you do have something that's off balance, whatever it is, you got to look to where you're going to invest that money properly, which side of the equation you're going to put that on to correct the issue, to correct the imbalance, and get you back to a place that is healthy, right? That's what we're trying to achieve here. It's health, it's balance. You need to reduce the allostatic load as much as you can to get back to homeostasis, right? That's like the be-all, end-all of this entire equation, right? So look at your investments. Where are you putting things in at? What stressors are you dealing with? And remember, it's all encompassing. It's not like you have like 2 or 3 stressors going on, right? And then something else is added to that stress bucket. You have to look at that beyond just, this is just one more stressor. No, that's exponential, because now you're putting that stress on top of all the other stressors, and now you're spilling over, right? And you basically are going broke on one side, and you can't afford to do that if your goal is to be healthy long-term, right? And I think this is just a piece to the puzzle that many people aren't understanding, because we're in this mindset that we can do it all, right? And that we're untouchable until the system breaks. And at that point, the alarms go off and you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? And then it's still an uphill battle with a lot of people, because they don't want to invest in the other side, because they don't want to give up things like training 5 days a week. They don't want to eat more food. They want to go, not understanding that if they don't invest more money into that other side of the equation to correct things, it's just going to get worse, and it's never going to get better, right? And I saw this a lot this weekend in the seminar, in talking to different people, different demographics, and kind of seeing what they were doing long term, because understand this is definitely a chronic thing, and where their minds were with it. And this is where the problem is, because number one, people aren't being properly educated on it, and they're sticking their head in the sand thinking that they are invincible, and just because something happened to someone else is never going to happen to them, right? And everybody has a different resiliency to all these things. I can handle things to a greater degree than my wife can. My physiology is different than my wife's physiology or any other female's physiology, right? And we have to take that into account. So we can't look at it like you're fine now, but you need to take a step back and look where you're investing your money and making sure that you're keeping things as balanced as you can. It's not that you're not going to go through periods of having to put more money on one side for an acute period of time. That's okay. Your body can handle that. But at a point, you need to take some of that money and put it on the other side of the coin or the equation. Okay? That's the only way you're going to achieve any type of what we consider balance in the system. Okay? And until you do that, achieving any type of progress, whether that's physical or mental, metabolic, it's never going to come. It's always going to be this uphill battle. And you're going to be basically beating your head into the wall, wondering what the hell is going on. And until you do that, unfortunately, things are never going to get corrected because we are our own worst enemies. And it's very, very easy to self-sabotage because we can what we tend to do as an individual looking at ourselves is we justify things very, very easily. You know, this is also where at times a coach and an unbiased eye coming into the equation can let you know if what you're thinking is logical, right? Is the way you need to be doing things. And that will help you in your journey to get kind of pointed in the right direction, to get guided on that right path. And basically like, it's like a broker, right? They're going to tell you where to put your money to get the most return, right? And that's what we want out of life, out of health. Like, where can we put these as evenly as possible to get the best quality out of our investments, you know? So that's what you got to look when you're looking at, say, a practitioner or a coach to help you in your journey to kind of get you to that place that we need to be. All right, guys. So I hope this kind of, these analogies kind of help you understand like how you need to kind of balance your stress book and to create a life to where you can thrive and just improve in all facets of life. It's not just about the cosmetic, and you got to get away from that. Again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look a certain way, but again, health doesn't have a look. And until we start looking at that, society is just going to get more and more unhealthy, you know, and we're doing our best to educate, to put the word out there. Everybody here at the Revive Clinic, at our offices, our supplement companies, myself with Maximum Performance Health and my wife, Nicole, we're creating a company to help people as much as we can and just make this society a healthier one and one where people just thrive all the time. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. As always, we thank you for your support. If you could, you know, give us a positive review, 5-star rating, you know, subscribe to our channels. Obviously, we're always obviously sponsored by Revive Supplementation and Raw. Support us there as well, so we can help continue to deliver the products for you guys, the best quality products. And if you guys ever have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out, DM me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So until next time, guys,